Okay, we are live. My name is Craig Watts with Utah Mandarin Families, and this is the first in our series of Mandarin Immersion Parent Snapshots. And our guest today, Heather Lambert, is PTA President at Riverview. So we'll get a chance to hear her introduce herself, her family a little bit, and talk about what's going on at that school. The point is so that we can understand what's happening at other schools, so we're not siloed in our own school, and just get more information and make some connections. So to jump right in, Heather, personal journey. Can you tell us about your family, your journey into Mandarin, how it started? Like, why did you get your kids enrolled? And it seemed like you were right at the beginning of the program. Is that right, in Riverview?
Yeah, we were. So my family, it's me, my husband, and then we have 4 kids. My oldest is 13, going on 14. My next one, she is 11 tomorrow. And then the next one, he's 8, and then I've got a 3-year-old. So this all started, we moved around a lot early on. My husband's job took us around a lot of different places and everything. And so we finally got the chance to settle down here in Utah. We started out in Eagle Mountain. We were renting out there. And we heard from a neighbor that they were just starting a new Chinese language program. And I didn't know that schools anywhere had language programs other than, you know, doing a foreign language in middle school or high school or something like that. So it was really really interesting to me that they were starting it in 1st grade and continuing it all the way through. And I thought that was really interesting. My son was in kindergarten, and she said that they were starting it just that year as 1st grade. So her daughter was going into it. And I'm like, oh, great. Then I still have time that I could get my son into it. And she told me, yeah, they've got all these other language immersion programs too. But I really wanted the Mandarin one because my husband speaks Mandarin for his career. And so I was like, well, I have a built-in tutor at home. If my kids ever struggle, I've got someone who can help them right there in my house. So Mandarin was our first choice. We did also apply for the Spanish because he also speaks Spanish. And luckily we got in with Chinese right away. So I was really happy about that. And we had him start that very next year after kindergarten right there.
Okay, and then what I'm going to do is just jump to the next section here, just about the school. So if you can tell us about Riverview, like say that first year and maybe what's going on in later years. So was it 2 1st grade classes? How many students? You know, what was the setup for 1st grade, or what was it then, and what is it now, kind of roughly?
Okay, yeah. So back then, the year before my oldest, it was 2 classes because you do you do 1 day in Chinese and then 1 day in English, and then you swap the next day. So they were able to offer 2 classes of 30 students each. So total in the Chinese program would be 60 because each teacher would be teaching both days.
So you did AB days. So it was a full day of Chinese and then a full day of English. That was in the original class your son was in. He's in 8th grade now, or 9th? Is he?
8th grade.
8th grade. Okay, so that class, it used to be an AB, and then how did it evolve from there?
Then his class, they tried out a new model, if you will, where they did the original 30 and 30 for English and then Chinese. But then they brought in, what do you call it? I don't know. Sorry, it was half day. So you switched after lunch.
Okay.
It's always been that way. But then they did a part-time teacher kind of co-op thing. So they'd have 1 Chinese teacher and 1 English teacher, but they were both on payroll as part-time teachers. So 1 teacher would come in the morning and they'd learn English or Chinese, whichever was first that day, in that part. And then after lunch, the other teacher would come in, and then that teacher would go home and they would learn. So they never switched the classroom. They just stayed in the classroom, but they learned the part-time. And so in total, my son's first year was 90 students.
Okay, wow. So there were 3 1st grade classes and they were kind of swapping through. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And currently, what's the situation? Do they still have 3 classes coming in at 1st grade at Riverview?
No, it didn't work out so well. Funding and the logistics and the fact that our school was growing also with our English side of the students. We didn't have the extra classroom space anymore. So unfortunately, that experiment didn't work out so well. We also had a lot of students, unfortunately, drop out, whether it was because they were moving or the parents were just feeling it was too hard, that the kids weren't really catching on. They felt they would succeed better in traditional school. So we lost a lot of students. I think we had under 60 for his 6th grade graduating class.
Okay. And currently, like say this year at Riverview, 1st grade, what does it look like? Is it 2 classes of 30 or?
Yeah, 2 classes of 30 still. So 60 total. And with Corona this year, that's why I got confused. Corona. So this year, to keep from contaminating students and having to clean everything and all that, the kids actually do stay in their classroom for the whole day. So today was English for my son and daughter. So they stayed in English the whole day. And then tomorrow they go into Chinese and they'll be in Chinese all day.
Cool. And then like, are there TAs in the classes? Like say for the Chinese side, do both classes, there'd be a TA there all day with the other teacher? What does that look like?
Yeah. So each class gets their own TA, I believe, for the Chinese side. And we have TAs, I believe, that float from grade to grade with the other, from classroom to classroom within a grade. I believe every grade has a TA. So yeah, okay. There's TAs that just help. I know at one time we did have a parent who was very fluent. It was actually her native language, and she came in often to do subbing for some of the Chinese teachers when they had to get a sub or something. So the Chinese learning continued on that side, and then she would help out too.
So are there some Chinese heritage kids in the school?
Yeah.
Like say in your son's classes, would it be 1 or 2 or more like 5 or 6 or?
I would say in each class, maybe 1 or 2 would be about it. We have some that already speak it a little or know it a little bit because it's their heritage. And then others who are like, well, it's our heritage and the mom and dad don't speak it, but they want their kids to learn how to speak it. So that's why they're in there. Okay,
so you've got a little bit of heritage. That's kind of the situation when I taught at Cascade. We had maybe 1 or 2 in each class, and some spoke, some didn't. So can you say something about the motivation of the students to learn Chinese in the school? Like, do they have strong motivation and they're excited about it and really progressing, or is it kind of like so-so, or it depends on the kid, or what's the feeling maybe? Like if you just walked into the school there and thought, okay, is this something the kids are enjoying and they're going for it, or is it kind of like, we don't know if we like this? What's the general feeling there?
I think the general feeling, the general consensus is that the kids really do enjoy it. They really love it. They get into it. They love really when the teachers, especially our native teachers, bring in things like during Chinese New Year week. Some of them bring in fryers, like electrical fryers, and they teach their students how to make dumplings, and the kids all get to make a dumpling and everything like that. And they really get into the culture side of it. The kids really get excited about that. You are always, just like in any class, you're always going to get those kids who are like, I'm here because my parents made me, Right.
Do you get that as a parent? Like, do your kids kind of give you that sometimes, like, wow, I don't want to do this and you're making me, or your kids are like, we're good and we like it? What's the kind of sense you get from them?
My older two love it. They enjoy it. Of course, there's always going to be a hard day here and there, but they really do enjoy it. This year, for my 8-year-old, he's in 3rd grade. He's struggling a little bit, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that last year with the shutdown, and we all had to go on to online. Our teachers were amazing, and they did what they could with what they had, but it was definitely not the full-on immersion that they were used to. And so there was definitely some, even though we would sit here with him and help him do his homework and help him do his Loom meetings and all that, it definitely lacked. And so starting 3rd grade this year, back in person, we were so excited, and he was doing well at first, but then once everybody started to get caught back up, he kind of stayed behind. So now it is kind of a struggle for him, unfortunately. but we're working really hard with him, and here at home we're doing flashcards every day. We're helping him write characters. I just bought a bunch of books on Amazon in Chinese for my kiddos, and they
There we go. We got an arrival, and that's awesome. Yeah. It's a little easier for
so
the
it's also hard for him because he does have autism, and he also has ADHD, and we discovered ADHD actually very recently. So we're also trying to work out medication for him and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's great.
We're working with him, and he's getting better. We're very proud of the progress he's making just here at home that we're doing with the flashcards and everything, and hopefully we'll start seeing the difference at school.
So, but he is going to school now currently? It's not remote. People are in.
No, yeah.
Are you early out on Mondays? Is that why he's home already? Is that?
No. Okay, so Alpine.
I'm so out of it. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah, every school district is different. So Alpine School District has done the hour out early every day. So
that's right.
Kind of on early out schedule for every single day. So elementary A track goes from 8 until 1:15, and then the B track goes from 9 to 2:30 every single day.
Great, thanks. Okay, let's see. Parents, I'm interested to hear about parents in the school and how involved they are, and how do they communicate? How do your parents that are in the Chinese program, how do they communicate? How are you involved, and how involved?
Our parents are actually really involved. I feel that we probably get a little bit more involvement from the Chinese side of the school than we do from the traditional English side. I think maybe that's just, I don't want to put words in people's mouths or say that this is how everybody feels, but I know for me as a parent, I'm more involved. Well, I'm always involved, but I feel like I get more involved because of the Chinese, because we are so involved in their schooling at home. So our kids come home and they've got to do, Mandarin Matrix's homework online, and they've got to read these Chinese books and characters, and they've got projects sometimes at home that require more from us. And I'm even interested in what my kids are doing at school, especially with the Chinese side. So I like to be involved so that way I get to know that kind of stuff.
Right. Are there parents going into the classroom to volunteer, or not so much? It's more helping out at home, or how does that work?
We used to, before COVID, we used to be able to go into the classroom and help a lot more. But I should say from the PTA side, it's the Chinese parents that are more involved. Before COVID, all of the parents, they loved going into the school and being in their kids' classrooms. They loved being room moms. They loved helping with class parties and class projects and everything. But with COVID and everything, and not many visitors being allowed at the school, it's definitely, we've seen a hurtful drop in volunteerism, and it's not anybody's fault. It's just the rules of what we have to follow. As far as communication goes, for the parents and everything, we have some Facebook pages. So we have a Facebook page for the whole school that all the parents can get on there and communicate with each other. We even have some of the teachers who are on there. So then, because teachers are the parents too, so a lot of the teachers there have their own kids coming to the school as well. But we all have that one Facebook page where it's our PTA one. So we put out announcements from the school, from us to everybody, and then the parents can get on and ask questions. Like, oh, my kid came home last night and told me it was pajama day today at school. Is that right? Or is it just for this grade or just for this class? And then people can pipe in and help them out. We also have a separate PTA. This one's not PTA ran. This one is the Chinese Immersion ran by parents. So we have one for the dual immersion side, where if your child is in Chinese, you are welcome to join that page. And on that one, it's nice because then we can talk more about like, oh, okay, there's this project, or my Mandarin Matrix isn't working. How did you guys figure out this problem? And even carpooling, because our school is actually very big with out of bounds kids. And what that is each school has a neighborhood around it. And then there's a boundary line that the school district will draw. And then within that neighborhood, if you're on this side of the line, you get to go to this elementary school. And then if you're on this side of the line, you go to that elementary school. So for us, we are out of bounds. We live quite a few miles away from our school, as do a lot of the dual immersion kids live outside of the boundaries. So we would get on to the Chinese page and say, hey, I need a carpool, or I just had a spot open up in my carpool, and we work out that way. I think we feel pretty close as a community, for sure.
And so that Facebook page extends up into the junior high or to the middle school, or is it's a separate one? Or?
Yes, so we have a separate one for the junior high as well, and so it's kind of like you move up with it. So as you graduate into Vista, which is our feeder school, which is where all of your elementary schools in one council will feed into usually one middle school, but now we have two. So it makes us out of bounds again because they just built the new one right by our house. So now I'm going to have to drive my kids to middle school as well, because the new middle school does not carry for the immersion, because Riverview is within Vista Heights Middle School's boundaries. So we will go to Vista, so out of bounds. But yeah, they have a Facebook page as well that parents had started. So when you're done with, because I've got Riverview and Vista kids, I'm part of both Facebook groups. So yeah, and then so next year will be the first year for immersion for high school. So I'm sure the parents will also start a new page for the Westlake High School.
Okay, I mean, the Facebook page sounds really great for communication, for carpooling, help on Mandarin Matrix, logins, things like that. Very practical, for specifically Chinese things. Then you don't have to bother the other parents who aren't involved there.
Exactly, and then it's also great because some parents speak Mandarin as well, just because they know it, they learned it for a job or did it for a mission or something. And so these parents also offer their tutoring services on our Facebook page. We have some teachers who used to teach for us at Riverview, but then decided that they wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, which is great, but they wanted to still bring in some income, and they were the Chinese teachers. So they also offer tutoring services where you can get on and be like, hey, my kid's really struggling. Would any of your kids like to get together for some study sessions? And they can work on this together as peers. So,
that's great. It sounds like a great channel. Okay, one more question I wanted to ask was about extracurricular things that are happening or have happened that you find value in, like summer camps, language courses, trips to China, maybe even. What kinds of things besides just what you get in the classroom are kids at Riverview finding valuable, or you finding valuable as a mom? Is there very much going on?
There's not too much going on. Again, before COVID, there were summer camps up at the U, and then I think there were even a few the last few recent years down at UVU. We've never been able to attend because they were quite costly. And with more than one kid in the program, I can't afford to send all of my kids. So I know that at the beginning, there were a couple of teachers who have since left us, but they did free summer camps where they would meet like once a week or once every other week at the school, just kind of in the playground. And it wasn't like school ran, but the teacher would get together with them and they would help them stay fresh on their Chinese. I'm hoping to maybe do that, kind of orchestrate something like that again for this summer, but we'll see. As far as China trips, it's kind of, you've got to find your own. So it's known kind of out there in the community that there are some trips that groups of parents get together and plan with schools or something out there. So they're learning trips that you can go on. But again, those are also quite costly. But I do have some plans in the works, hoping that they work out. And then I'm hoping to share that with other schools where we have our language children teaching the non-language children. And that helps them to kind of reiterate what they've learned in class. Because I know when I'm a hands-on learner, so when I get to kind of show other people and teach other people, it's definitely cemented a lot more in my brain and I remember it better. So I'm kind of hoping to offer that too for our immersion kids, probably just the 5th or 6th graders, kind of doing a club where they're going to teach our traditional English kids that want to learn Chinese, and they can do this. And we'll of course have we're going to find a teacher advisor over that, and then we'll ask for a few parent volunteers to just kind of make sure it stays a teaching environment and not a play club or a babysitting club kind of thing. So
yeah, that sounds great. And, play clubs, if it's in Chinese, that's really great. That's
Yeah.
probably better than teaching. If kids are having fun and they're speaking Chinese and they're getting to know each other, that's just awesome. And to try to bridge that gap, because when I was at Cascade, I felt the same thing. Like the kids who weren't in the Mandarin program kind of felt left out, or they couldn't
Yes.
talk to the other kids. They know a few words, they get to know them through other ways, then there's not as much division in the school. So I think that is an awesome kind of,
that's our number one goal, is to unite the school, unite the two sides. We don't want to be English side and Chinese side. We want to be Riverview. So
do you have any thoughts on what's been great about the program, what's been hard, what things you would want to change? Just maybe some top line thoughts. And those are big questions, and I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but what's been great, what's been hard, what would you want to change?
Yeah, ultimately, I absolutely love the program. I love everything about it. The teachers are great. We get native speakers who come through, and it's wonderful and it's great at the elementary level. I believe at the higher up levels, and I know it's hard because they're working out the logistics, because we're still part of the first that's climbing up. The year before my son went to Vista was the first year for the kiddos there for the previous 6th graders, the 7th graders there. And it was rough. It did not feel like there was any organization in there. I think the teacher kind of felt lost sometimes as to what was supposed to be going on and all of that. So, of course, then they try and fix the problems in the next year, which was my kid. It was a little different, and our experience was definitely different than the parents and the kids from that first year. And I'm sure that, we did get a brand new teacher this year, actually, for Chinese. So it's different for everybody again, but I think there's more concrete, like, okay, this is what this grade's doing, this is what this grade's doing, this grade. But then next year is high school, the first year for the high school, for the 10th graders. And we don't know if they have a teacher yet. We don't know. We have no idea what's going on. So, and when we did the parent meeting in the very beginning, from when my son was in kindergarten and we were learning about this whole program, they sold it to us that it was going to be fabulous and everything. And I was under the impression that my kid was still going to be learning a whole lot more in Chinese in middle school and in high school, and they'd be graduating with a degree from college, or like an associate's degree in college by the time they're graduating high school. And now, as we're growing with this program, I'm not seeing the promises being lived up to. And I don't know if they just overpromised and didn't realize that the logistics weren't going to work themselves out and be able to do that, or if they just kept putting it off and off and off, and like, oh, we've got years, and then all of a sudden it's there, and they're like, oh no, what are we gonna do? So I haven't heard much of a plan of what's going to be happening at Westlake next year for our Chinese kids. And I know that a bunch of them right now are actually studying really hard for the AP exam at the end of the year. Our 9th graders are. So it's going to be very interesting to see how many of those 9th graders pass this AP exam, and if they were truly prepared for it through all of these years, or see where we're lacking and where we need to pick up the slack and prepare our next class to succeed.
That's a great overview. So communication at the high school level, what's going to be happening next? Maybe understanding what's going on at other high schools that are a little further along.
Yeah, that'd be
and
great.
Then trying to get a map together for that, because I can see how that's going to be kind of cutting edge for you and your family. By the time your youngest son is in high school, it'll probably be all worked out. But right now, there's a lot of kind of uncertainty. Yeah. It's such an ambitious program. Really respect all the work they've done to get to where we are. And now, the phase where we're trying to smooth out would be middle school, high school. So, parent input and sharing from the schools might help to make things smoother there. Yeah. Just one last question to wrap up about the future. What are your plans for the future with your kids, and how do you hope to see them using Chinese? Or is it more like, just like learning math and academic exercise you might not apply in a job? I don't know. How do you feel about it? You want to see them move to China and live in China, or you don't want your kids to go there? I mean, I moved there. My mom was so upset. But I mean, would you want it to be a big part of their lives, or you think, hey, it's just part of school and that's good? Or it depends on the kid. How do you feel?
I went into this program hoping that it would be part of their lives, part of their future, part of their careers. And as we're climbing that ladder and getting there, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I'm like, what are my kids going to do with this language? I'm like, well, they can be a translator for a hospital or a doctor's office. I mean, I don't know much I honestly don't know what careers there are for our children with their language skills. I know Chinese is becoming a much more popular language out here in the US. It's getting up there with Spanish. So sometimes you're left thinking, man, should I have had them do Spanish instead of Chinese? It would have been so much more useful. But I'm like, no, I really think Chinese is going to be very useful. It's just finding those spots where they're going to be needed. So I hope that if they choose to serve a mission, I hope they get to serve a mission in possibly in Taiwan. They could join the military and use it. They could be translators. I'm beyond that. I don't know. I've got my oldest who wants to be a mechanical engineer. Well, how can he use his Chinese to become a mechanical engineer? How is that going to help him be a better mechanical engineer? So those are all thoughts. I mean, I'm really grateful that my kids are in this program. I really am. I feel very lucky and very honored that we won the lottery, literally. I mean, it's a lottery to get in, and we won that lottery because once one's in, all of your kids are in because they get grandfathered in. All siblings get accepted into the program. So I feel very honored. And while it's had its times where it's been frustrating and we don't know what's going on, and we don't know what's up for their future, I just look at what my children have accomplished so far, and it's incredible. My older two can almost carry on a fluent, full conversation with someone in Mandarin. My 8th grader writes his characters better than my husband. Like they're starting to surpass their father now, which is very exciting. So I mean, yeah, it's got its headaches, but all in all, I'm grateful for what we have entered into, and I plan to see it out through the end and even better the program where I can for others.
This has been so great. Thanks. And it's a future looking program, and it makes sense that we don't know maybe how high school is going to go, how careers are going to go. But I think, again, like when your youngest son gets up into those ages, there's going to be some career paths kind of set up, and we're going to have some more things. And I think we can bring business to Utah, Chinese business, by having a lot of capable people. So I hope that it works itself out, because I think there is a payoff for all the hard work, let alone just having a wider cultural vision and more capability, brain-wise, maybe in terms of seeing things in different languages. So yeah, I hope this will work out, but I really appreciate all the thoughts. And these are things we want to work on with Utah Mandarin families. I think we're all in this boat together, and that it's a good boat, and we just need to find some direction up in moving the future. So thanks so much, Heather. We'll go ahead and stop things here, but the conversation, of course, is going on. Appreciate all the help you've done with the Facebook group and getting set up in these initial meetings, and we'll keep working together going forward. So we'll take a pause here, and thanks again to Heather. Appreciate it.
Thank you.